another episode of Two Dudes in a Cage. Today we have a special episode for you. It's our first episode of Fighter Spotlight. We got a special guest, the host, myself, Charles Clark.
I'm Matt.
Matthew Johnson. And we have Darien Robinson. Darien is a pro fighter. He's a BJJ purple belt. He went 10-3 as an amateur. He's 1-0 as a pro. He's one of my teammates. Darien, thank you. Welcome for being here.
Thank you for having me. I like doing stuff like this. This is fun.
Hey, man, we're so excited to have you here. Plus, you're making history. You're on the first ever episode of a Fighter Spotlight with Two Dudes in a Cage. Man, we hope to go places. We hope to keep doing this. We got a couple pro fighters lined up, and you're the first one. So it's exciting, man.
I'm always setting history no matter what I do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. We're going to get straight into the questions. We got lots of questions for you. We hope you get to know Darien better, get to know more about him as a fighter, and we just hope to have a good time doing the interview. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Like you said, I'm Darien Robinson. I'm from Gunnison, Colorado, but I grew up in Vegas. So if anyone asks where I'm from, I'm always going to tell them Vegas because that's just the personality that I have right now. That's me.
For sure.
Been training about 4 years. Didn't really have any experience before I jumped into it. I just kind of graduated high school, saw the Mayweather-McGregor boxing match and was like, I think I can do that. I think I can fight. And then I found Says about a month after I started training. I had my first fight and I got a second round TKO finish.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
I was like, yeah, I'm probably made for this.
Yeah. Hey, man, I've seen you fight. Man, you definitely got some good skill. So I think you're going places for sure, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'm honored to be one of your teammates, man. For sure. Man, let's talk about your upcoming fight, man. It's your second pro fight. You're going against Brandon Manhoff, June 18th, Battle MMA. What are your thoughts?
It doesn't matter who they put in front of me. I'm always going to be ready to die in that cage. No one's going to beat me. No one's going to take food away from my family. I'm going there with the sole purpose of delivering for myself and my family. There's nothing else to it.
I love that mentality, man. Yeah. You got to be prepared to go to war in that cage, man, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're not willing to die in that cage, are you really a fighter?
Right. It's probably not for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you're gonna have to kill me to beat me.
Hell yeah.
Good mentality to have. With that, since you do have a fight upcoming, game plans are a huge part of MMA. It's basically chess. Do you watch tape or do you let your coaches watch tape and you just focus on you?
We both watch tape on our own times, but we don't watch it together as a team. I've always been like that no matter what I did. Like if I was going to a different school, I would always watch the film of the football team and be like, okay, are they good? Like, can I add to this team? What can I do? But when it comes to game plan and strategy, I'm just like, you think you have the idea until you get kicked or punched. And then you're like, what was I going to do again? So I kind of just go into the fights just ready for whatever. Don't really have a specific game plan. I just adapt to each person I fight.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's heard it 100 times. Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. And I know you definitely hit hard.
Yeah. Finally got my first knockout last year, so was very excited about that. I'm like, oh, I can hit this hard. We can do that.
So you fight at 155?
155 my whole amateur career, and then this upcoming fight's at 155. My last fight was at catchweight 160 because my opponent didn't want to cut weight. So
you hit like a 85er?
A lot of people think I'm heavier than what I actually am. I walk around at about 165 to 170.
It's the truth, man. Dude, oh man. You go up against him in sparring, you're like, oh man, I better get it in gear or I'm about to get my butt kicked. Like, it's for sure.
So when you do, like, obviously training camps, are you kind of like Patty Pimblay where after your fight you blow up? or do you consistently stay on a routine so you're always ready if a short notice fight comes up?
I've been known to have one of the worst diets in the gym. I just love eating junk food because I have the metabolism to burn it off. But I've actually been trying to cut back on the amount of junk food that I do eat because it is affecting the way that I perform. With that being said, yes, I do have my Patty Pimblett days, but at the same time, I'll try to keep it toned back as much as possible.
What's your favorite cheat meal?
Anything greasy. I
Yeah.
love burgers. I love pizza. Um, Steak's one of my favorite things to eat. I'm just very basic when it comes to food. Hot dogs, burgers, steak. I'm good.
What do you typically eat on fight day?
That's actually a good question. I always go to the store the night before, so or the day before. So like on weigh-in day when I'm still cutting weight, I'm just like, okay, what do I want for breakfast? So I'll have eggs, corned beef hash,
Oh man.
iced coffee, and maybe a chocolate milk, and then some bacon. And that's kind of been like my breakfast on whether it was game days or fight days, and that's just kind of been my routine.
Nice.
Very simple breakfast, and then
Sounds
come
good.
lunchtime I'll probably get like a sandwich, like a deli sandwich from Subway or Jersey Mike's, just something like
Nothing
that.
too heavy.
Something to give
Yeah.
me enough energy but not kill me
Right,
in the
right. I've
cage.
definitely seen people like overeat or didn't eat too well, and it affected them, and maybe even throwing up in the cage afterwards. I've seen that quite a few times,
Yeah.
actually, or even get sick afterwards. So
Yeah,
something smarter.
I had one of those instances last year. I was in this fusion tournament, and the second round, I everything was going good. I had a smooth weight cut. Come fight day, we went to Denny's, and I had milkshakes and pancakes for breakfast. And then I fought, dominated with wrestling, but then as soon as I got out of the cage, I was throwing up all over the place.
That's funny.
Yeah, I was a big lesson. I'm like, yeah, not doing that again.
Definitely learn from it. Sorry.
Good. No, you're good. I'm gonna save that for after the fights now.
So you mentioned Fusion, and you won an 8-man contract.
Yeah, I sure did. Got a.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying it was a 8-man tournament for a 3 pro fight contract with the promotion, and I was actually a replacement for the tournament. I wasn't
Nice.
picked to be one of the main guys. Someone had to pull out, so they put me into the tournament, and come to find out, I was the underdog the whole way. I didn't feel like the underdog though.
Interesting. Yeah.
I heavily thought that I was going to walk through anyone they put in front of me, and I still feel like
You
that.
sure did. You sure did. When do you plan on fighting for them since you won the contract?
Whenever they want me, to be honest, they haven't really reached out since the tournament, so I'm just honestly waiting until they reach out. But until then, I'm gonna fight elsewhere.
Nice, nice. I'm sure.
So now that you turned pro, does your team and your gym say, hey, we got to fight in, Missouri on this day? Do you want one? Or do you reach out personally to other promoters, or how do you get fights lined up and booked?
My coach is my manager. He handles all of that information. He just asks me, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about that guy? And I give my honest opinion, and then he chooses my fights. And he doesn't choose easy fights either. Like,
he sure doesn't.
He wants to make sure that we're battle tested, so that's why our camps, so to say, are some of the hardest in the country.
What's your my favorite one? Do you guys do Shark Tanks, like towards middle or end? New guy every round. Do you enjoy it, or does it?
Yeah, I actually did my first Shark Tank earlier this year, preparing for this pro fight. And the first time I did it, I was like, this is the worst. I hate all of it. But then I've actually started to grow to like it a lot. It simulates a fight so well. And it's just very easy to get into that mindset of, okay, this is a fight. I need to treat it like one. Even if you're just hitting pads and then rolling with people, treat it like a fight.
It reminds me of up downs in football or pad work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, up downs were some of my favorite workouts as a kid. I would always watch Remember the Titans, and there was a scene where they're doing the up downs, and I'd be in the living room doing it with them. Yep.
That's awesome. That's cool, man. You recently received your purple belt, man.
Mhm.
How does that make you feel, man? What does that mean to you?
Honestly, I wasn't expecting it until possibly later this year. But my coach felt like I'm ready, and with him doing that, I just felt more prepared than ever. My my confidence in my ground game has really just skyrocketed throughout my blue belt career. I didn't have any good submissions off of my back. I would always just look to sweep and just control top pressure, but I don't know what it is. This past year and a half, 2 years, I've been really working on my ground game off of my back, and my coach has seen it, and it's paid off.
It definitely shows. I can definitely feel it. I was thinking, oh yeah, I got you on your back. I'll be good. But then you triumphed with me recently,
Mhm.
and I'm like, holy shit! And it was really I couldn't get out of it. You reposition, and it was like super tight. So I think it's definitely well deserved for sure. So
Appreciate it.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely earned it.
he knows when the time is right. So yes, I was shocked and I didn't feel like I was ready, but I'm a purple belt, so I gotta accept it.
Yeah,
Speaking of purple, is that your favorite color?
It was during middle school, but my favorite color is actually black. It just fits with every single color possible. Makes it look slicker. Um, I don't know. It's just something about the color black that's very powerful to me.
goes with anything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite fighter?
I've got two favorite fighters, George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva.
All right.
Those two have always been my go-tos. And as I've started this journey of fighting, I've come across so many more different fighters. Recently watched a documentary on Buakaw from Thailand.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, yeah, he's my favorite kickboxer now.
Yeah,
That's for
he's
sure.
amazing, dude. He's had hundreds of fights too. Like, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm always looking to find favorite fighters whenever I get the chance. Yeah, but all time, those two are definitely up there. Currently, I'm pretty bandwagon. I'd have to go with Israel Adesanya, Kamaru Usman. Hamzat's one of my favorites recently.
Yeah,
Just watching his
yeah.
journey through the UFC, I'm like, he's different. He's very different.
Right. Yeah, Hamzat is.
Speaking of Hamza, he shows the importance of a game plan. Maybe not following it, but having it.
Yeah,
Because against Gilbert, his coach is like, "You're not doing what we practice," and that's a perfect example. You get punched in the face, you kind of forget things.
exactly. Yep. Yeah, so as long as you can go out there and implement your game plan as fast as possible, then it's okay to have one. But if you have an opponent like Burns, you're gonna have to be prepared to just go to war no matter what.
Mhm. So, what's your have you experience wise? Did you do like wrestling in high school or football or street fights?
I tried to stay out of the street fights as much as possible, but I had I think two during my entire school journey. All 12 years, I only had like two fights. Um, I was always a smaller kid, so I didn't want to pick a fight with anyone because I'm like, yeah, I'm small, I'm probably gonna lose. But yeah, no, not really a big fighter. I played a little bit of volleyball, basketball, or a lot of basketball and a lot of football through high school. So those were like my main sports. But no wrestling, no boxing, nothing like that.
Football is an underrated sport for MMA.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta learn to, get a good center of balance, which is important against wrestlers. And so wrestling and football, I think those two are kind of interchangeable.
Absolutely. Like even though I never wrestled, I feel like I learned a little something just because it's a lot easy. It's easy for me to understand that wrestling is. I
Yeah.
just don't know how to explain it.
Shoestring tackles like an ankle pick,
Mm-hmm.
wrapping up's like a double leg.
Yup,
Yeah.
head in their chests,
Yeah.
not head down. All the same mechanics.
Yeah.
That's cool when you think about it like that. That's cool how you put that together. I like that
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Man, what advice do you have for like anybody that wants to fight, man?
Honestly, if you're gonna fight, you have to be all in. I'm still learning to go all in every single day, whether that be with my diet, training. I'm always learning something new. Can't you can't really slack off. I've done a few fights where I didn't train the entire camp. I'd probably show up 1, 2 times a week at most, and I lost those fights. And it eats at me still to this day, but it's something that I chose to do. I chose not to train for those fights. So in doing that, I learned when I do train as hard as I can, no one can beat me. So if you
Good
just give it,
advice.
if you give it everything you got, your training is going to take over and you'll be fine. You know, don't have to worry about anything. You won't be nervous. You just go out there and do what you do.
Man, how do you deal with nerves on a fight night? I'm fighting the same night as you are, and I just get nervous thinking about it. Plus, I haven't fought in like 10 years. I feel like overcoming my nerves is going to be, a difficult part. And if I can get that under wraps, I can do good. So, what do you do to overcome nerves and things like that?
Most of my nerves that I have gotten happen throughout the day, not even when I get to the venue.
Yeah.
So to deal with that, I'll watch a movie, play video games. Excuse me. Specifically UFC 4. I
Good game.
Yep. I That's like my stress reliever because I'm like, okay, you just punch some people real quick, not worry about anything. It takes my mind off of it
Yeah.
completely. And then by the time I look at the clock, I've spent 5 hours playing video games. I'm like, oh, it's time to fight.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. Take your mind off of it, not think about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then when I get to the venue, I'll start getting those butterflies again. So I'll just start listening to music and dancing, not really caring what people see. I'm just like, hey, I'm having a good time. Just start dancing and doing whatever.
Awesome. Cool. I love it.
So what's your walkout song?
I change my I try to change my walkout song every time I fight, and mainly old school rap. A lot of Tupac. Um, I walked out to uh, Notorious B.I.G. Last year, I chose to walk out to Eminem only, and that was pretty dope. So yeah, I try to stick with old school rap as much as possible. It just gets me in that mindset of it's go time.
Yeah, hypes you up
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Yeah.
Something about old school rap that just gets you pumped.
It's so raw and like there's so much emotion into it. I'm like, yep, you guys have killed people. I'm ready to kill someone.
So you do MMA, obviously. What I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. We just had bare knuckle fighting last weekend. 50-year-old Houston Alexander, who's also Bellator and UFC. Dakota Cochran. What are your thoughts on bare knuckle?
I think it's a great sport, and here's why. It teaches fighters not to just slug it out with gloves on. Because there's so many small bones in your hand, it's much easier to break those. So you have to have perfect technique when you're throwing punches, and it's very easy to shatter your hand on someone's forehead.
Man, dude, people hold up their hands afterwards and they're just messed
I
up.
was at a bare knuckle MMA event the night that I won my championship, and I saw this dude's hand after. His whole face was cut up. His whole hand was like a balloon. It was bad. So I'm like, that's what happens if you just slug it out. But like I've seen people go in there with perfect technique. Dave Leduc, for example, he does Lethway, and he almost never has broken bones just because he's conditioned them so much and he hits with perfect technique. So it's a dangerous sport for sure, and it can be very devastating to the bone structure to your face. But aside from that, I think it's a great sport.
That's nice. Yeah, teach you good technique and teach
Mhm.
you how to be a better fighter in the end.
For sure. Like I got offered to do a bare knuckle fight, and I wasn't for it when I first was talking about it, and then the more I thought about it, I'm like, I could make some money doing some bare knuckle. But then I'm like, yeah, if I do break my hand, I'm gonna be out for half the year, and I don't need
Yeah.
that. So probably
Right.
not gonna do any bare knuckle.
Speaking of broken hand, how do you go about if you get injured in camp during a fight? How do you go about dealing with that? Is it extra stress or
I'm very hard headed, and whenever I have an injury, I don't like to rest. I told myself my whole life, just push through it. You can deal with it later. Um, but since I tore my meniscus, made me really think about it. You need to actually like take care of your body. You need to recover on the right days, ice properly. There's a science to it, and I'm still learning that as I go. So it's not something I can just push through anymore because I've taught myself to respect what my body tells me.
Mhm.
So because I want to have a decently long career, and I can't do that if I'm half broken.
Right. There are a lot of people that, have amateur careers. They do good as amateurs, but not everybody makes it to pro, man. You made it to a pro. A lot of people think you're going places. What does it mean to you to be a pro fighter, man?
Honestly, it was just a dream at first. I knew I was going to be a professional athlete in something when I was a kid, but it was always changing, whether it be just basketball, football. It was always one of those two. I was like, I'm going to be something. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, okay, I'm too small to play football, not tall enough to play basketball. Here in MMA, I don't have to worry about being too tall or too short. I just have to worry about being on weight. So that's it's nice knowing that I had that in me to try fighting and to stick with it. And now that I've made my dream come true, I've set a new goal for myself, and that's get to the UFC.
Yeah.
you
What's
know,
the,
in the words of LL Cool J, dreams don't have deadlines, so it's never too late.
that's right. What's the most weight you've ever cut?
Ooh, 30 pounds
Holy shit.
for my title fight. That's only because it was during COVID and I had 3 fights in 3 months. So it was literally fight, rest of the month to recover, fight, rest of the month to recover, fight, rest of the month to just recover. And by the third fight, I had gotten up to 185 and the fight was at 155 and something happened where they bumped it up to 160. So I only had to I cut um an additional 5 pounds prior to because I was like, okay, I need to get my weight down before I start cutting, like seriously.
Yeah.
So I had to cut 30 pounds, and by the time I made it to the scales, I had nothing left in me,
I believe it.
nothing left, and I said I'll never get that big again. It was not fun.
So with cutting weight, it's always a huge focus. Do you have another job as well, or are you a full-time fighter?
I actually have 2 jobs. I work at Come and Go. I used to do the overnight shifts, and it was fun, just because I got to do whatever I want by myself. But then it was wearing on my training because I wasn't getting the right amount of sleep. So I switched to days. So I'm still working at Come and Go, and then I also started working with my girlfriend's dad with his cleaning business. So yeah, I've got 2 jobs on
Man,
top of training.
you're a go
So
getter.
now, when you make it to the UFC, are you gonna do the Jeff Neal? Are you still work, or are you gonna do a majority of fighters do like Jared Cannonier was a aircraft, I believe, a mechanic. He did something with airplanes in Alaska. He ended up quitting to focus on fighting. So, are you gonna full time fight or have the job still and fight?
I've thought about quitting once I get to the UFC, but it's not in me to quit anything. So I would probably drop one job and just keep the other, just to keep some money coming into the house when I'm not fighting.
Yo, imagine going into the gas station and being like, "Aren't you a UFC fighter?"
Yep.
That's Jeff Neal works at Texas Roadhouse in Texas, obviously.
I have a ton of
They're
respect
huge.
for fighters who are also working a normal job
Yeah.
because it's just what are you gonna do if like something happens to your career and
Yeah.
all you've done is fight?
Right. Right.
Like,
Gotta have something to back up on. Yeah.
So I've been really just trying to maintain that mindset of no matter where you go, keep a normal job. Keep like let that be your normal life because fighting is not normal.
Right.
Nothing about this is
And it
normal.
won't
Good
last forever.
separation and allows you to focus on other things other than just fighting. Like you take a break from that and gives your brain extra healing because
It's
it's constantly working.
Yeah, it's definitely a mental reset for sure. I don't like to take a lot of time off after fights. So the weekend after I fight, I'm back to work on Monday, whether that be training or my other jobs. I'm just always doing something.
Nice, nice. Man, it seems like every day there's always an article about Jake Paul. He's in all the MMA news outlets. He's always being talked about. Man, what do you think about Jake Paul, man?
I've got mixed emotions on him. When he first came out, I wasn't a big fan. Still not a huge fan of his, but the way he's talking about fighter pay and he's trying to get
Yeah.
the mixed martial arts fighters paid, I'm all for that. So he's got a soft spot in my heart for that mainly. But outside of that, I'm on
Other
him.
than that, his personality, his
Yeah.
antics,
Mhm.
the things he does.
Yeah,
It's every day, bro.
I know. And like,
My youngest loves Jake Paul. My oldest, not so much. So we have mixed emotions in this house. I do like his obviously the fighter pay, but he's a good example of if you want to do something, you've got to go in all in.
yeah, absolutely.
And that's what he did with the boxing. And so he he's an idiot in some aspects, but his work ethic can't be questioned.
That is facts.
Yeah.
After the second Tyron Woodley fight, he made me a believer that he could be something in boxing.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he slept that man, and I was like,
Damn.
someone serious.
Yeah, he surprised a lot of people. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
myself included. You know.
Yeah, but now that he's talking about Canelo, I'm like, calm down. Just calm down.
A little
You're
too
not
much.
not there yet.
I'm interested. I want to see him fight Tommy Fury and then maybe like Anderson Silva because Fury's a young boxer who fought a guy that's 3 and 113. So, but it's a good introduction to boxing, and then Anderson Silva will be his real test because he beat Julio Cesar Chavez in his first fight, and he's an actual striker,
Right,
not a wrestler.
right. Those next two fights make the most sense for him. Um, Unfortunately, I'm going to be rooting against him when he fights Anderson Silva.
Me too.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna be like, if you beat him, I'm going to shoot you. I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
Anderson Silva's still pretty good at boxing too, though. I think he's
Yeah.
taking it seriously as well.
Mhm.
So
I think Anderson Silva's closest to our generation's Bruce Lee.
I would agree with that for sure. He's mastered it all.
Yeah, Izzy's coming up to that, but right now it's definitely Anderson Silva.
Oh, for sure. Once Israel Adesanya starts getting submissions,
his ground game.
yeah, once we start to see his ground game, I'm like, that's all we're missing from him, really.
Yeah.
Because we know he
Yeah.
can strike. Everyone knows he can strike, but once we see what his actual ground game is like, and he starts pulling off submissions, then he can be in the talks for possibly the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. What's your favorite movie?
I got two of them. Remember the Titans? That's just
Yeah.
always been like a motivational movie for me ever since I was a kid. And Space Jam. Those are my top two movies ever.
Both great movies.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the new Space Jam?
It wasn't bad. I was going into it with no high hopes at all because I knew it wasn't going to be as good as the first one. So I'm happy I did that because I wasn't disappointed. I thought it was a good movie.
I like how they made references to, all of the discrepancy or like all of the hate that he normally faces. They poked fun at all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a huge LeBron James fan. So
Right.
what he did, he is basically John Jones of the MMA or like of the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
young and still live to his hype, except he doesn't have all the outside issues that Jones does. But
Right. That's why I respect him so much for that. He's actually kept a good head on his shoulders.
do we have There's one more. You took my question, Charles.
I'm sorry. There's a couple more. A couple more. How long do you think someone should train before they fight? I know you fought pretty soon before, after you started training, but I don't think that's typical of everybody.
Right. Um, like for someone who's getting into it, I would say wait until you're comfortable on the ground. If you have no ground experience, I would say wait until you're comfortable throwing up submissions and creating scrambles, simply for the fact that that's going to keep you alive. If you get stuck with a wrestler and you don't know how to get out from underneath them, you're going to have a bad night. So just train as long as it takes until you're comfortable on the ground. Um, for me, it was different. I just wanted to fight. I didn't really care who I fought. I was willing to do whatever it took to win these fights, and I've just trusted my coach with everything that I do.
Yeah, I think Coach Mike definitely has our best interests out for us.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to see us all succeed as fighters.
For sure. Like, even though he's not fighting himself anymore, he still hates losing. And if we lose, he feels like he lost
loses
himself.
too. Yeah.
So that's why he pushes us so hard.
For sure. I like that.
So now you mentioned, obviously the goal is to get to the UFC. How do you have a thought of a path for that goal? Like, would you, if you were offered the Ultimate Fighter, would you take that, or would you prefer to be offered like a Contender Series fight?
That's a good question. I would.
Stumped him.
Yeah. Angry me is saying take Dana White's Contender Series because all you have to do is win one fight impressively.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Now,
you get your coaches.
Hmm?
And you get your coaches.
Yeah, and you get your coaches.
Yeah.
If you go to the Ultimate Fighter, you're away from your coaches, you're away from your family and friends, and you're with people who don't know how you train and how your body works. So I would rather go the Contender Series, but if I was offered the Ultimate Fighter, I'm pretty sure I would take that. You get the chance to learn from a world-class athlete, and in doing so, if they teach you the right way, you could work your way into the UFC with just 3 fights. So it'd be like another tournament style thing, which I'm used to doing. Yeah, I would just do whatever came first, honestly. The pathway is laid out for me. I just have to work hard and do what I need to do.
I think they both have. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, stop doing the Ultimate Fighter and stick with the Contender Series." But personally, I think they both have their purposes. Like, obviously, Tough opens, networking for when you do make it to the show, as well as the Contender Series. It's more of a fight scenario where you're in your comfort zone. So, and all you have, like you said, you go out there, you impress them, and you got one fight rather than a month or two with 30 strangers, people you don't know trying to tell you what's best for you.
All the antics that go on in the house, all that crazy stuff.
Yeah,
Having to live with people you're fighting.
I know for sure if I was to do the Ultimate Fighter, I would be very quiet for like the first week, and then I would start warming up to people and getting to know them, and then I would probably act like a fool on TV. So
Just
yeah.
don't do what Lieben did.
Yeah, I won't pull a Lieben. Let me bet or a Julian. Let me bang, bro.
Yeah, there've been some characters on that show.
Yeah, so I would very much be like a Tony Ferguson, just laid back, kept to myself, just kick people down the whole way through.
He was an underdog in the show too. Surprised them all.
That's how they get you. Michael Chiesa was the same way.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yep. He had that unorthodox ground game, and I feel like in Tough you don't get to watch tape, and so you go in there blind.
Right. Like I don't know if they let you know who's gonna be there, but I know that certain seasons they have they have the coaches watch film on each fighter. Like for the Black Zillions versus American Top Team season, they let the coaches watch film on each fighter, and they would match up with that. So
That was a good season.
it was very good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Marty from Nebraska.
Man. Yeah, I think we went through most of our questions, man. Is there anything else you want to say? Anything you want to say to your fans, potential fans, maybe to get some more new fans? Why people should watch out for you? What you have to give as a fighter, things like that.
I mean, no matter what, I'm going to show out for my people. Any fans that I currently have, any fans that I will have, I just want full support and trust in whatever I do. Whether that I'd be fighting someone who's out of my league, I still want you guys to talk me up like, oh, he's gonna do it. He's gonna be the guy, because then that's gonna give me confidence. And who knows? Anything can happen in a fight. So I may pull off some of the biggest upsets in the world. And with you guys supporting me, that's all I really need. Um, I really, I'm like, I'm a very quiet guy when you get to know me at first, but the more that you know me and follow me, you guys will actually get to see the true nerdy, geeky, fun me. I'm very childish. Like if you like hang around me, he's like, oh, he's just a big kid. That's all I am. He's just a big kid who knows how to fight. um, I've been thinking about starting up some streaming stuff like for gaming. So if you guys have any input on how I can do that, be sure to reach out.
Nice. Yeah, what video
Yeah.
games do you play? You did mention that. Yeah.
Oh, UFC 4, Call of Duty, Valorant. I don't play competitively, but if I had the time, I would play to the point where I could if I wanted to. Then I could possibly make a living on that after I retire fighting.
Hey, yeah, people are going to universities for video games nowadays. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's definitely possible.
For
So,
sure.
do you have an Instagram, Twitter that we can put at the bottom of the video and our podcast streaming everywhere?
Yeah, my Instagram is Deuces MMA, Dueces MMA, all lowercase. That's where you're gonna find a lot of my fighting stuff. My personal profile is linked to that. It's just drob1524. Um, don't really have a Twitter. I had it in high school, but then I got rid of it just because don't really go on there much. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have much social media. Very basic.
Instagram and TikTok's where it's at apparently.
Yeah, I do have a TikTok, but I don't really post on that. Now that
I have one just to watch the videos.
that's pretty much what I'm using mine for.
Nice. Matt, you have any final questions?
No, do you have any sponsorships or sponsors that you want to shout out on here?
Oh, of course. I want to give a quick shout out to the Kerr family. Of course, they're my first sponsors. Following me since 2020, all the way out to Wyoming. They've come down to Colorado for my fights. They came out to Montana. So yeah, shout out to the Kerr family. Shout out to Vigilant Security. Another one of our teammates. He trains with us. Shout out to Jesse Campbell's Real Estate. Again, another teammate. You're looking to get a good house, looking to move out. He can help you with all that stuff. Let's see, I've got some others. Actually, I think those are my only 3 sponsors right now. Yeah, I'm always looking to get more sponsors. So if you guys know of anyone, if you fans out there have any businesses that you want sponsored, hit me up.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, man, you should sponsor this guy. He is going places. You should get on his team while you can. I definitely think you should. Hey, man. Hey, this has been the first ever episode of a Fighter Spotlight featuring Darien Robinson. Darien, man, I just want to thank you so much for being here. Man, we had a great time. This was super amazing. Man, look out for Darien. Quick shout out Says MMA, that's CIES MMA. If you're in the Colorado Springs area, come check us out. Our team is definitely up and coming, but we're going places. If you want to be like Darien, come train with us, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me so much. I'm looking forward to doing these more and more with you guys as my career goes on.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hey, we hope to have you back on the show as a guest host sometime. You can help break down some fights with us. That would be awesome,
That would
man.
be a great time.
Awesome.
Great
Cool.
time.
Hey, we look forward to it.
Of course. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. And if you're ever in Omaha or Nebraska, I'll come to your fights.
Sounds good. I'll be fighting in Nebraska later this year, actually.
For is it OFC?
I wasn't given a promotion name, but as soon as I know, I'll let Charles know so we can hit you up.
All right, yeah.
Awesome.
In about 5 minutes, you're gonna have a new follower on Instagram.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Hey, y'all check out. Watch out for Darien. He's going somewhere. Hey, appreciate y'all tuning in and thanks for being here.